All right, welcome to the first class of the second week of 30 Letters in 30 Days. Can you believe it? We're on letter number 8. We started last week on a Monday night. Now we've wrapped around all the way back to another Monday night. And of course, we're doing this to prepare for Yud Aleph Nisan, for the Rebbe's birthday, Haba Leinu L'Teva. And as mentioned before, we're not just learning Torah, we're also giving tzedakah. I'm using the Koil Chabad Pushka app. Of course, you can give tzedakah any way you like, but this is just fun. You see, a little app looks like a, I don't know if you can see it even, it looks like a Koil Chabad Pushka. And okay, that's fun. Okay, let's learn tonight's letter. This is a letter that has a lot of application to parenting and education and just in general to life today, modern life. So without further ado, let's jump in. And this letter is from the Igros Chelik Vav, Volume 6. It's letter 1793. If you're watching on YouTube, the PDF is clickable in a little link in the description. If you're watching on SoulWords.org, then there's a PDF clickable on the bottom of the video player. Remember also, if you're watching on YouTube, to subscribe to my channel and to turn on notifications. And that way, whenever we go live, you will just get an alert, and it'll be so easy and simple. Okay. Baruch Hashem, Chav Zayin Menachem Av, Tavshin Yud Beis, Brooklyn Shalom Avracha. By the grace of God, the 27th day of Menachem of 5712, that's the summer of 1952. So we're talking about early in the Rebbe's years of leadership. Brooklyn, Shalom Avracha, that means the Rebbe is writing to a man. From context, you'll see this is a father. And we know from the letter at least about 2 of his kids. Most of the letters about his daughter, and also it mentioned something about his son. Okay, but at first the letter talks about something completely different. Actually, there was another part of the letter which was redacted. That's why the letter starts with the ... with the ellipses, because something was presumably of a highly personal nature was redacted, and then the part that it starts with is my father-in-law, the Rebbe's diaries of his imprisonment have not been published yet, but when they are, bli neder, without a vow, they will be sent to you. Okay. It was pleasing for me to read in your letter. Asher bitay tichya, your daughter, may she be well. Hivticha le lisnaig ulinahel es besa keminig bata yudayin. She has promised to conduct and to lead her house in the custom of Jewish homes. Okay, it seems that the daughter was engaged to be married. I mean, that's what it seems to be. And that the father perhaps wasn't sure if the daughter was going to make that level of commitment to run her home in a halachic way. And the father asked, maybe even the Rebbe asked the father to ask, because it just seems from context that the father's reporting back to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is thanking him for the report, and then the Rebbe is sort of asking for even more, which you'll see as we read on. Okay, so it was pleasing to me to read that you spoke with your daughter, and she says she's going to conduct her home according to the way the Jewish homes are supposed to be conducted. Aval yidua psak hadin shebamakom sheyesh levarer ein lismech ala chazaka v'chulu. However, it's known, and the Rebbe cites the source Shulchan Aruch Yerdei Siman Aleph Sif Aleph Ba'Haga, the Ramah in chapter 1, halacha 1 of Yeridea, which is in Shulchan Aruch, that when it's possible to clarify something, you don't just go with the presumption. The original context of that is talking about shchita, about ritual slaughter, that although there's such a thing as a chazaka, that it's presumed the person was competent shaychit, that he knew what he was doing, but that's after the fact. Really, from the outset, one should ascertain whether or not this is a competent shaychit. So similarly, the Rebbe is saying, you need to make sure that she knows what she's talking about. And the Rebbe says that explicitly in a couple more lines, that basically it's nice that she wants to, she has a willingness to run her home in a Jewish way, but we don't exactly know if she knows what that entails. Especially something that affects all generations for the rest of time, forever. Meaning, the original context was shchita, so if somebody shechts a behema and they don't know what they're doing, and chas v'sholom, it's treif, how long is that behema going to be around for? How long are they going to eat from that? But you're talking about conducting a Jewish home, raising children, bringing children into the world. That's something where the effect is intergenerational. So we have to really make sure to clarify that she knows what she's talking about. V'lochein, because of this, meaning because of the gravity of this, that this is something that affects many generations, I'm permitting myself, I'm taking the liberty of rousing you one more time. So it does sound from context that the Rebbe was ma'ir once, like in the previous letter, and now the Rebbe is taking the liberty to do it again. Shibeinyan taras mishpacha, at least regarding taras mishpacha, meaning there are other areas as well of a Jewish home, but I'm going to focus on taras mishpacha, and perhaps it's because that's most closely associated with the idea of l'deiros deiros ad seif ha'olam, for all generations, for the end of time. There are generally three categories of mitzvahs associated with the Jewish home, overseen by the Jewish woman. And this is the famous mnemonic or Rosh Tevis that my ancestor, the Megala Mukes, taught. The word Chana or Hachein, which is Chala, Nida, Hadlakas Neder. So Chala is not just Hafrosh's Chala, it's all kashrus, all overseen with kosher status of all the food in the home. And then there's Nida, which is Taras HaMishpacha or Mikvah, bringing children into the world with the benefit of ritual purity. And then Hadlakas Neder is talking about lighting Shabbos candles and Yom Tov candles. Okay, but the Rebbe is saying, I'm focusing on the Taras HaMishpacha, on the Mikvah stuff. All right. Tzorech Ladas Barer. You have to know clearly, like you have to really make sure if she knows what this entails. Today, it's very, very common. In fact, it's kind of, sort of, I would say, organized that a young man or a young woman gets engaged and they have a chassan teacher or a kala teacher. And there's actually like certification for that nowadays. And pretty much any Rav who is going to do Siddur Kedushin is going to ask, who did you learn with? And it has to be a known person, a certified person. We're talking about, this letter is back in the 50s, where they didn't have that kind of network established. And that I was asking the father, can you please make sure that she knows what it means? Like she's agreeing, yeah, I'll conduct my home according to Jewish custom and Jewish law, but does she know what that means as far as Taras HaMishpacha? She literally may not know what that really means. Ukvar yashnam atos svarim nitpasim gam be'sfas medina kol hadinim v'hapratim aidei hayang Israel v'chadema. And it seems like this letter was written to someone in America, although the Rebbe was writing in Hebrew, but could be the father was a rabbi and he was comfortable with Hebrew for correspondence, and the daughter perhaps would find it easier to read English. That's what it means, Sfas HaMedina, the language of the place. especially because the Rebbe says young Israel. Young Israel is referring to America. So the Rebbe says there are Taras Mishpacha books in English that young Israel put out, like, you should make sure that she reads them. Okay. Let's continue here. Bashonim mikoidim. In the old days, hoyu ke'elu shahoyu misbaishim ledaber al derech zeh. There were those who were embarrassed to talk about these matters. Meaning, in the old generations, people were very refined and very modest, and they were embarrassed. They didn't want to talk about intimate matters. Ukvar hareinu hanesayin shibalu mazeh. But we've already experienced, we've seen through our experience, that in the other side, meaning the not holy side, midabrim umadpisam inyonim shall nibul peh v'chulu v'chulu, where they speak and print things that are foul language. V'eid mekablim oises hatztayonus praisen balaz, and they receive awards for this, prizes for this, like Pulitzer Prize, or I guess you're right. That's for literature or journalism, something like that. Okay, at any rate, not a Nobel Prize. That would be for like a scientific discovery. But the point is, people are writing books now where they use foul language. And it's not considered like something that is scorned or seen as like like rejected by society. No, this is held up as the pinnacle of the art form, and they're given prizes for writing this way. That Rebbe makes a joke here. It's a joke. The loshen tzachos means a humorous quip. A little pun. Prizes, maloshin pritzus. Pritzus means promiscuity or lack of modesty. So in the world, in the big world out there, the more pritzus, the more prizes. They're being awarded and lauded for their lack of modesty. Uchshaboim ledabra ben yonim hanoigim benefesh lohedim v'lialdehem v'chulu. But when it comes to matters that are negeya benefesh, that are life and death, is the way I translate it in English, for the parents and their children, harikan bo halumazeh hanikra der klugenker. Now the other side comes along, and the other side is sometimes called the klugenker, the crafty one, the cunning one, the Yetzer Hara we're talking about. Umazkral midas b'nei Yisrael sheim baishonim. And he says, no, Jewish people are baishonim. Baishonim means bashful, reserved, modest. And I don't have to elaborate. In other words, the Rebbe points out here the hypocrisy of the Yetzer Hara itself. That when it comes to, I guess, literature and the things that are not really important in life, to say the least, we're so comfortable with speaking in unrefined ways. But when it comes to something that's super important for all generations, for all time, all of a sudden we become very, very puritanical, and we're concerned, oh no, you can't speak those words, you can't say these things, they're very private. And that I was saying, it's hypocrisy, and it clearly the hypocritical nature of it clearly exposes the fact that it's nothing more than the Yetzer Hara. Okay, so don't get all frum on me all of a sudden that we have to be so careful, we have to tiptoe around it, we don't want to say anything that's off color. Like, no. This is where we have to speak really, really clearly, because this affects generations. So you don't use the fact that you're uncomfortable and you're a little shrinking violet. You don't want to talk about these things. It's not refined. I mean, obviously there's a setting, there's a context. These are not things you speak about publicly, and there's a reason why we learn these matters with just a couple of students at a time, and the Mishnah speaks about this. But the point is that you're going to have to speak about these things. And you're going to have to, in this case, you're going to have to make sure that your daughter knows the real technical details of Taras HaMishpacha, and you cannot invoke this Baishonim thing. Baishonim, again, means bashful. It's one of the traits. The Rebbe is going to speak about it. The Gemara in Yavamis speaks about the 3 traits that are indicative of the Jewish nation. Don't invoke this Baishonim thing as a way of being remiss in your duty. Okay. Olahayer Mahagamar in Nedarim Chof Aleph Ein Sham Bechadusha Agodis Marasha Van Gamken Yavamis Ayin Tes Aleph Bashleisha Mides Rashatevis Gaver. Okay. So the Rebbe indicates 2 Gemaras that are pertinent. One is in Nedarim, the other is in Yavamis. The 3 midos, the 3 attributes, which are the acronym Gever. Gimel is Gimel Chasadim, that the Jewish people are associated with being charitable or philanthropic, right? Look at the name on every museum, of every aquarium, is always every hospital, always a Jewish name. Baishonim, the aforementioned bashful or modest, and Rachmanim. Rachmanim means merciful. Shnitztainu bohem b'nei Yisrael, which these are considered to be hallmarks of the Jewish people. Hine, Rachmanus g'mis chasadim heim beteilada mimeis Avram Avinu. It's interesting, of the 3 categories, 2 are different than the 3rd. Rachmanus and g'mis chasadim, the compassion and the kindness, those come from Avram Avinu. Those are a spiritual inheritance that's in the DNA of all of the Bnei Avram, all the descendants of Avram. Masha'ein Kain, not so, Baishonim, the aforementioned modesty, Shnasu Rak Bizman Matan Torah, that came about much later. Much later. That was 7 generations after Avram. That was in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That was Matan Torah. So the Rachmanis and the Gemilas Chasadim, that was implanted from Avram's time, but the Baishanim part came along in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, specifically at the event of the revelation at Sinai. Asher bazeh mituretz hadiuk haniflo betanya seif perek aleph. Now, I particularly enjoyed this. I enjoyed Tanya. You can see behind me. Behind me is, how do I point? Behind me is the Tanya map from Kahos, which was one of my very first. It was my very first project that I did publicly, and I still teach Tanya, and I just taught a Tanya Shir today here in the Five Towns at Levi Yitzchok Library. Mondays, 11 o'clock, Women's Tanya Shir. We just learned chapter 15 today. And I love Tanya. Anyways, so here's a little insight into Tanya at the end of Perek Aleph of Tanya, the very end. Shemazkir rak rachmonim ugmils chasadim v'lei baishanos. When the Alter Rebbe is talking about the qualities, the good qualities, the midas toives that are in the Nefesh Habamis, because the Nefesh Habamis of the Yid is Klippas Noiga. That's a lot to unpack there if you don't know any Tanya. But basically, the neutral quality. It's not holy, but it's not profane. And therefore, it has a mixture of good qualities in it. So even the animal soul, which is not holy, has within it good qualities. And the Alter Rebbe says, for instance, Gemilas Chasadim and Rachmanis, he doesn't mention the third one. He implies, he says, such as, right? Is that the language? He says, I should know Perek Aleph Baal Peh. Should. Everyone should know it Baal Peh. But let me just make sure here. Yeah. V'gam midas teva shebeteva kol Yisrael b'toldosam kamei means like. Rachmanis v'gumas chasadim. Right. So it says it like these two, but it doesn't say the third one. It implies that there are others because it says like, which is like saying, for instance, yeah. So why doesn't it say the Baishanim one? All right. Ve'ein misayim afilu b'tevis v'chulu. He doesn't even say etc. Meaning sometimes there's another item or items in a list that the Alter Rebbe doesn't enumerate, but he at least nods to the fact that there are other items by saying etc. V'chulu. V'hatam, so but why doesn't he do that? V'hatam, the reason who, canal, as mentioned above. You get it? Because the qualities that are an inheritance from Avram Avinu, that's only two of the three. The Rachmanis and the Gemilas Chasadim. But the Baishanim part is a totally different thing. That was implanted from the time of Matan Torah. Okay, so you're saying very interesting, but what's like the practical takeaway? Umus or Haskell hulu chulonu. This is a teaching, a moral teaching for all of us. Shebaishanos tzricha liyes nesemis leha mushba va'omed mahar Sinai shebesham nitna levenei Yisrael. That any baishanos that we have, any timid or bashful, shy kind of quality, which is a positive quality. Yes, it's enumerated as one of the positive qualities, but any of that must be used in accordance with that which we swore, and we are standing under the continuing force of that oath at Sinai, where the Baishanis quality was given. And in fact, another Gemara, Be'ah Chafei Beis, says that really the Jewish people are chutzpahdik. I mean, I'm kshei oiref, we're a stiff-necked nation. So then that's the opposite. Azus is the opposite of Baishanis. So the Rebbe explains, really, by nature, the Jews have a certain chutzpah, but Matan Torah implanted within us a certain Baishanis. However, where is that Baishanis? Only when it's being used in alignment with Torah. So, in other words, let me spell it out. Don't come along and say, I can't talk about those issues in Torah because they're of a very private, intimate nature, and yeah, I can't. I'm a Baishan. I can't do it. No. The only context for Baishanis is when it's being used in accordance with Torah. So where Torah dictates Baishanis, yeah. But where Baishanis actually is undercutting your ability to learn and teach Torah and conduct yourself according to the Torah in a clear way, then don't come to me with Baishanis. It doesn't even apply here. That's not what the Baishanis was given for. So you're coming from left field with Baishanis here. All right. It's a very, very interesting insight. And I think, like I said, this has a lot of applications for parents and for teachers and really for society in general. It's like, the Rebbe was saying in the 50s how the princess gets the prizes. So how much more so today where like all the filters are off and it's like, how much are we exposed to, even when we try to avoid being exposed to it? And then all of a sudden when it comes to matters that are negea benefesh, life and death, and not just for one generation, but for all generations, all of a sudden we become puritanical. All of a sudden, I can't go there. Like, this is misplaced prudishness at the expense of the spiritual well-being of families. So the Rebbe is saying, get over yourself, basically, and make sure that this young woman knows the real details, what it really means to have a spiritually healthy, intimate life as dictated by Torah, like with all the details. Okay. Betach yislach li al kol hanal. Certainly you'll forgive me for all of the above. Meaning that Rebbe is acknowledging that this is pretty forthright on his part, but I had to do what I had to do, and I hope you'll forgive me. I know you'll forgive me. Ki ein kavanasi ela l'tova. My intention is only good here. Va'ikar hu shiavarer v'yishtadel bavorenin as hanal. The main thing is, like, the takeaway here, the bottom line that should emerge from all this: go figure this out. Go find out how to bavoren, how to make sure that you know ahead of time what you need to know, meaning whether your daughter knows what she needs to know. Kipsak razal devarim yetzim in alev nichnosim el alev, and as our sages say, words that come from the heart enter the heart. I'm not sure if the Rebbe is speaking about his own words leaving the heart, that they should enter the letter reader's heart, or if the Rebbe is saying that if the letter reader, meaning the father, will speak to his daughter in a way where the words leave the heart, then certainly his daughter will receive them in her heart. Bebracha librius hanachina loy lezugosei lechobene beisai shichyu. With blessings for good health for you and your wife and all of your family. Ubedrisha shalom livnai shichya she bakor etzli ito yachad. Also, please send my regards to your son. May he be well, who visited me with you together. V'sanin ladas, I would be interested to know, b'ma niskarav yeser l'Hashem Elokeinu v'meshech zman zeh. I would like to know how he has grown closer to Hashem since we, in the meantime, since we have met. Asher betach niskarav yeser k'mem razal. Certainly he has grown closer, as our sages say, Mailan b'kodesh, we only ascend in matters of holiness. Apparently, the son reported to the Rebbe some type of spiritual growth, so the Rebbe is saying certainly the spiritual growth hasn't ended, it's only continued, and I'd like to hear reports about that. Vare miskarvin anu kolonu lizman bias mishichenu v'kates golosenu. All of us are drawing nearer, meaning your son is drawing closer to Hashem, and all of us are drawing nearer to the redemption through Mashiach, which will bring about the end of our exile, bivracha, with blessing. And that's our letter for tonight. So, yeah, very powerful. A letter which was written, what is that, 70 years ago, but it could have been written today, and maybe is more pertinent and applicable today than ever. If you're a parent, if you're an educator, or even for yourself, there's a time and a place for being careful about our speech and being sensitive. And the Rebbe himself was the greatest example of going out of his way to avoid even anything that was a hint of rough speech. And yet when it comes to clarifying that somebody knows what they need to know, you have to say things as they are. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll see you again tomorrow night.